Hello, everybody, and happy Monday. Welcome to the Change Book International podcast. And as you know, I show up here on Monday because I have the honor of interviewing the most amazing co-authors in the Change Book. And today we have another great author. I just want to tell you, I'm Nicole Harvick, and I get to introduce this lovely lady to you, Yolanda Davis. How are you today?
I am doing well. I am doing well. Thank you for asking.
Oh, you're so welcome. And I will just tell people we had an amazing conversation before we started this podcast. So I can't wait to see where this goes. She's an amazing lady, unbelievable bio. So let's start with, why did you choose the Change Book to write in?
Um, I met this young man named Mr. Jim Lutz.
Oh,
Yeah, and I
I love him too.
okay.
I love him
So
too.
I'm just gonna say I feel that in itself speaks for itself. Um, he's just an amazing person. He's my coach. And I decided to write in this book because of the relationship that has been developed and because I trust him. That's what it boils down to.
Yeah. And we haven't even mentioned how brilliant he is, have
Oh,
we?
oh, that would take up all the time on our show. No.
Yeah, this would be a 2-hour long podcast, but he really is. And
Oh
I
my
think the
gosh.
thing that most impresses me about him is,
Mhm.
first of all, he's a brilliant marketer, but secondly, he genuinely wants to help all of his authors to just become huge, become big, bigger than life. And
Yes,
he's willing to put in the time and the work to help us do that with one
absolutely.
one call.
Absolutely.
Yeah. No,
Absolutely. Yeah,
he's wonderful. He really is. I love Jim Britt as well. And tonight's our mastermind, so I'm really excited about that. The
I
first,
am as well. I will be there.
I
Yes.
will too. I will.
Yes.
So, what was your chapter about, Yolanda?
So, my chapter is about pivoting.
Hmm.
Um, Somehow pivoting became super important. And as I look back over my life, I realized that I had pivoted and it actually catapulted me into a whole new direction for my life. And when I made that shift and made that turn, if you ask me, did I have all the instructions to do so? I would say no. If you ask me, was I scared after coming out of a marriage for more than 2 decades? I would say yes. But intuitively, I knew that that helped me to go in a new direction, not just a different direction, but a new direction. And I don't know if you have seen people maybe around you in different areas and things that appear to be stuck.
I've been stuck.
Oh, well, yeah, me too. And so just intuitively, it became important to share about the power of what pivoting can do and be if you are indeed stuck, because that's what I did. Yeah, I had to pivot.
Were you scared to pivot at the time? Did you know you had to do it, but was there fear involved?
There was fear for me because I was a stay at home mother, or my income didn't contribute, the little income that I did make didn't contribute to the household. And so after I became a single woman again, I had to figure out who I was going to be because I became single. And then a year later, my youngest child, graduated from school. So I was an empty nester too. A lot going on.
Ooh, bam. That's a 1-2 punch right there.
Yeah, a lot was going on. And I think for me, well, to answer the question, yes, I was afraid. There was fear. But I come from a solid family, grew up with my parents, Christian family. So I had to backtrack and get to my roots and really start praying and finding a strength that was in me. And that is what really took some of the fear away. Um, yeah, but I was really by myself now in this world. So, you figure a couple of decades of being, married, and it's like, who am I now? Where am I going? What direction? So, yes, there was certainly some fear.
And, oftentimes we only see things when we look back. We really can't see it when we're mired in them or making those adjustments or pivoting, kind of like hoping, praying, oh, please let this go right. As you look back on that journey, how are you a different woman today?
Whew. Well, the first thing that comes to mind is I'm willing to share, because in the thrust of it, my experience looking back is it was about me. As far as I could stretch it, it was about me because I was in survival mode from fear, from being afraid. Um, yeah, it's because I'm no longer there. I'm free. Yeah, I'm free to be.
And that feels good, doesn't it?
It feels good. It's also comforting, but ironically, it's also a little scary. Like, what? This is real. And yes, it is. Being here in this moment at this time, loving self, loving others, finding my tribe, as we talked about before we came on camera here, and being willing to be me the way I am.
And isn't that nice? Because so often as we go through, we have so many transitions, you're working, you've got your career, then you have your family, you've got marriage, and you become so many versions of who you think you're supposed to be to fit in with the moms club, with the PTA, with the dance members, with the pageants. And, I look back and I got through it and I did it, but I'm sitting at a point now where I get to choose, just me. And it is a little daunting because you're like, well, what if I choose wrong? And then I start thinking, I know myself, I'm learning about myself. How can it be wrong? Because now as we understand our powers as women and as single women, we start thinking with our hearts, I think. Have you noticed that?
I would say yes, I have noticed it. And I do share with people, it's like, oh, wow, this is something new in terms of this particular muscle in my life.
Mhm.
Hasn't really gone to the gym a lot. That's the way I say it, right? Learning to, number one for me is be okay with self.
Mhm.
Um, that's a big one for me. And I think by being okay with self, it it allows me to be okay with others. I'm not saying I get it right, because the flesh does war against the spirit that is, looking to grow and elevate itself. But it allows for me to be okay with others, how they are and the way that they are.
Ooh, that's very, very powerful. And for me, I think that is a little bit part of surrender and raising our vibration to a higher frequency is we no longer care to judge. We release that part, that ego part, the angel devil, the ego that sits there and chirps, oh, well, who do they think they are? And it's like, It doesn't matter. I can walk away from anything and I don't have to judge anymore. Are you finding that as well?
Yes, I will give you a very recent example. I was on the phone with a young man, and he asked me, he's doing his walk in life, and he said, Yolanda, um, his program is a little unique, and he said, well, is it them? Is it us? Or is it I? And right away, Nicole, I said, it's I. And no sooner than I said it, I said, wait, wait, wait. Let me take that back. Let me pull that back because that was an ego answer.
Mm-hmm.
And what I'm really appreciative is that I recognize that because it's really we. Because I think when you start on a certain path and a certain journey, there's no separation. But we learned on the other side that it's all separation. So I pulled that back because the ego said right away, it's me, myself, and I. And it's like, whoa, what was that? What was that?
Yeah,
Let me take that back. It's us. Because when you find the us tribe, the us vibe, it's beautiful. Because
it
the I
is.
sometimes is a very, I want to say tiring journey sometimes, because you're going after it, you're trying, and it's like, no, it's us. So to answer your question, it's like, yeah, I had to pull that ego back, but it was interesting how quick it answered. I was like, whoa,
Yeah, yeah. It shows who's in charge now. And that
yeah,
the collective, the one mind collective is
yes,
so powerful. People
yes,
don't even understand that. But
yeah,
because of that immense power, we can also think of ourselves from time to time as an I. And by understanding us and respecting our wants, needs, and desires, it becomes a whole different ball game when it's functioning together as one, is how I feel.
yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Totally agree.
That's amazing. And
Yeah.
I was going over your bio, and you are a doctor in humanitarianism. How do I
Yes,
say that?
yes.
And but that is about the human concept, right? Thinking everybody's equal and part of the game. Can explain that to us, would you?
So I was in a networking group and they wanted to basically recognize and honor folks who have contributed significantly to the community. And so she had an opportunity to bestow this prestigious award. Um, and I was one of the people that she chose.
Congratulations. I can see why.
And thank you, thank you. So basically, I am a Air Force veteran, and so upon getting out of the military, I ended up, buying property and different things, and so I ended up partnering with local agencies to house their women and children. Um, and then when I purchased another property, I ended up turning that one into um, like a transitional home. So I house the mentally ill and dual
Mm.
diagnosed type people. And so I did that for several years. Volunteered in the veteran community as well, taking on different leadership roles. And so that's where that came from, and just really honoring those who have put in, I guess, some extra work in the community. Yeah. So I'm appreciative. Yeah, for that.
Yeah, that's a great journey. And when I can tell you have such a big heart. And to be able to serve others, I think is part of our calling when we get to this point. Not waiting hand and foot. I mean, everyone has to do their share.
Yes,
But
absolutely.
when we look at things differently now, I know people that will see a homeless person and said, well, they did it to themselves or they deserve it. And it's like, no, that's so not true. And
Yeah.
I look at everything through a compassionate heart and a compassionate eye, because we don't know their stories. So many people make up stories, and that really bothers me. Do you see that as well in your community?
Um, I'm going to say no.
Good.
And I'm really kind of looking because prior to moving here to San Diego County, um, I was in that space of dealing with, that type of those type of people, if you will. I just didn't encounter people who looked that way, or if they were around me, I didn't see them because I was really on my mission, maintaining my properties, being a landlord, and all that comes with that. I
That's a
didn't see
job
it.
in itself.
Oh my gosh, yeah, that was a lot of work. A lot of work.
Yeah, it really is. So how long were you in the Air Force?
I did 2 terms, one 4-year and one 5-year on active duty, and then I went into the reserves for a couple of years, and I said, "I'm done."
Okay. What did you do while you were in there? How did you serve?
Administration,
Mhm.
yeah, admin.
Okay. Did you
Mm.
get to travel any place, or were you situated in one place?
I did get to travel. My second duty assignment was in the Azores, Portugal.
Ooh,
Yep, and I stayed there for 3.5 years. And from Portugal, I went to England. I went to London, Germany, and I got married. I flew from Portugal to Greece, the island of Crete, and I was
ooh.
married on the island of Crete. So those are some of the places that I went to while there. I feel like I'm forgetting another country, but I did get to travel. Yeah.
How fun, how
Yeah, it
fun.
was.
And did you meet your husband while you were in the military? Was he
Yes,
military also?
yes. Yeah, we both met. We were both in. That's where we met. Yeah.
Aw, and then did you have your children while you were in the military?
No, I got out, and right as I got out, my daughter was born about 7 months later, I believe, thereabouts or so. Yeah. So when you're pregnant, that's one of the reasons or justifications or whatever. And so I said, you know what? I'm ready. I'm
It
ready.
was time, right?
I'm ready.
Well, you transitioned from one job to another. A mom is a full-time job. It
Oh
really
my
is. Whether
gosh.
we work or not, it is a
Ooh,
full-time job.
that was, yeah. I stayed home, most of those years, the majority of them for sure. And I tell people, you talk about looking back. I don't know that I would pick that role because I drove my kids to school until they were 18, at least my boys.
Mhm.
Okay, until they were 18. My daughter, she was a little different, She got her license at 16 because she had a little job and things like that. But each kid had their own gift, their own path. And I wanted to make sure that I tapped into each child being an individual. So when they got to middle school, I was like, okay, I'm going to put you guys in a private setting, private schools. And I told my daughter, you're going to go here because I think this is a fit for you. I have one son, he speaks like 6 languages. So I put him in a prep
Wow.
school on the other side of town. And then when my youngest one came along, I put him in the school that my daughter had gone to. Because I think when they get to middle school, sometimes the kids can get a little weird. And I wanted to kind of get in front of that. So small environments would help me. But, there was piano, guitar, violin, you name it, going multiple directions. That was a lot of work. Looking back, it's exhausting.
You know what? And I only have 2, but
Woo!
I love that you individualized your children based
Yeah,
on their needs, not
yeah,
based on what people say you're supposed to do.
right.
I think that's beautiful, and I was the same, one had dance, one had and basketball, the other one had volleyball and drums. It was just, I look back at how my car, because I can remember my ex-husband, your car is a mess. And it's like, of course it is. I live in it, I eat in it.
Ooh,
And it was, but it was literally because there was so much transport going on. And I look back and it really was, it was daunting at times, but that was the time I bonded with my kids.
I tell this one story. I said, I remember I dropped my son off at basketball at 5:30. My daughter had tutoring in a couple of cities over. She had to be there at 6. So I got her there at 6. Basketball practice ended at 6:30. So I drove back, and she got out of tutoring at 7. And I did that a couple of times a week. I forget if it was 2 or 3 times a week. But this one time, um, I was so exhausted, and my former husband, he worked in the area, and I was like, "Dude, I can't do it. I need you to go get her. She's just gonna have to sit with you. I'm exhausted."
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, so and he did. So, yeah, it's a lot of
No,
work.
it is a lot of work. As I
Yeah,
look back, I'm very glad I did it. Like I said, there were times with kids, you have to let them talk. You can't force conversation. And sometimes we'd have the best conversations. And I remember divorcing and moving when my daughter started her freshman year of high school. And I drove her there. And there were some mornings she was chatty, and other mornings there was silence, but she was there. And I
yeah,
respected her not wanting to talk.
yeah,
So yes, that
absolutely.
is it. Parenting is a journey in itself, isn't it?
A journey, a book, a
Multiple books.
world.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Oh my goodness. So I know that you are also a public speaker.
Yes.
Can we talk about that for a minute? I mean, I'm reading all these things. I'm like, I want everybody to know how awesome you are. So tell me about
Oh,
your
thank
public
you.
speaking.
Well, this is me answering my calling, if you will. Um, I started speaking in about 2015, and then I'd stop and go back and forth, um, and finally, I just decided to step up and be in the space um, that resonates with me. And so I have sought myself coaches, and I am certainly on the path of expanding my signature talk. Let's just say that for sure. I want it out there in the world.
Good. Good.
Yeah.
And that is about pivoting. Is that
Oh,
correct?
absolutely. Yes.
And it's interesting because to think if you hadn't pivoted, you would not be doing this, correct?
Uh, More than likely not.
So that was that pivot, that
Yeah.
one pivot took you in a new direction.
Yes.
Yeah. How
Yeah.
would you tell people not to be afraid of that pivot?
Realistically, and I know that we have a ton of coaches out here, and I get it, but I think a wise person will seek counsel. I really believe that at this time in my life. Because when I look back, I was really kind of winging it, as we would say. Um, but the first thing is I would say seek counsel, seek a coach if that's, more appropriate. Seek some form of guidance, um, because having a person who has been there or knows something about a little bit more about life and the journey of life than yourself in a certain area, it can help versus trying to figure it out. And you may figure it out because we do have a lot of tools available to us. um, it would have been nice to have known that counsel existed in terms of coaching for myself.
Mhm.
Find a coach.
Yeah, I believe that as well because, like they say, even coaches have to have coaches.
Oh,
A and
absolutely.
we always for me anyway, I always want to be in a state of learning or knowing or elevating. And there's so many people. Okay, so I could say, yeah, I know a lot. People like, how do you know all this? And because I'm always learning, because I'm seeking people that can help me or guide me or teach me.
Yeah,
So it's very important to find coaches, I think.
yeah.
Very
That I would. like realistically start there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And we have to admit, we have a, like we talked about in the beginning, we have amazing coaches with Jim Lutz and Jim Britt. So I just think about how fortunate we are, you
Yes.
know, not just to be in that book and be with around all these high performing people. Sometimes I get in there and I look at everyone, I'm like, my gosh. And you know what? Had I not pivoted, I wouldn't be in it. I love that word, pivot.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, Yolanda, we're getting to the end of our interview, and I knew it would go so fast. But I want everybody that's watching today to reach out to Yolanda. What I have done is I have put a link in her description that you can reach out and find her on LinkedIn. But I want you to leave everybody with a nugget today. You have a lot of wisdom. You've been through a lot of things. You've lived in a lot of places. Give us a life nugget that we can take with us today.
The phrase that comes to mind right now, the one I'm using is, I say, listen up. It is normal to be stopped. It does happen to the best of us. It is also normal to be unstoppable.
Ooh. Ooh.
It happens to the best of us. You get to choose.
Bam.
Bam.
Bam. You get to choose. And if there's one thing you could get across to people is they get to make it. They have a choice. They get to make it.
Yes.
I think that is brilliant. I want to thank you so much for being here today. I know we had a little confusion, but we made it work, didn't we?
We did.
Made it work. And I am
We
so
did.
grateful to meet you, to talk to you, to be able to interview you. And this was amazing to listen to you and learn from you. And I feel like today you coached me through a lot of things. So thank you so much for that. I appreciate it. And to everyone out there, please reach out to this amazing woman. She is a wealth of knowledge. And I know from just talking to you that you're one of those people that share. You keep nothing to yourself. It's out there for everyone to understand and to know.
Yes.
So, Yolanda, thank you so much for being here today. It's been my pleasure. And to everyone else, I will see you next Monday with another amazing co-author from the Change Book International podcast. Thank you.